The Gaijin Complex is a controversial subject and many Japanese avoid talking about it. But I am Japanese, and I am not afraid to talk about it. Japanese people do not have the Gaijin Complex towards people from other Asian countries. But they do have an inferiority complex towards certain non-Asian foreigners, mainly towards Caucasian foreigners from developed Western countries. Yumi Nakata, from her article, "What is the Gaijin Complex, and how do Japanese people really feel about foreigners?" For the Gaijin Blog, June 22nd, 2014.
Some of the films that I'm speaking about that are racist in nature, that exclude any kind of diversity, any kind of brown, dark-skinned individuals, characters, individuals that appear of African descent. Some of these include very influential, popular films from Japan. Some of them are the Sailor Moon series. It's basically a series, cartoon series that was quite popular back in the, I believe, mid-90s. Dragon Ball Z, it has been going on for over a decade, I believe, since the mid-90s as well. It is still in existence. A series that was quite popular also in the 90s and the early 2000s called Neon Genesis Evangelion, something like that. There are, again, like I said, many movies that you can point to that have these characters. Naruto is one of them that have these Caucasian features, and they are basically, again, very much appreciated characters, celebrated, upheld, hugged, put in the limelight, put on pedestals, etc. And when it comes to dark-skinned individuals, they're either non-existent or they are villains. For example, the movie called Ninja Scroll, quite popular, I believe, from the late 90s. Ninja Scroll has very much all Japanese-looking characters, and the only dark-skinned character, which is more like a rock or man made out of rock or some sort of tree bark, is the villain, is one of the villains, the enemies, the demons, and is basically the only dark-complected individual in that movie. And that pattern basically repeats over and over in all of the Japanese animation movies that I can think of. This is the same on their regular movies. And I'm picking on Japanese media because that's the topic of this chat right now. I can go on with that with the Chinese media. I can go on with that with American media, with European media. I mean, this is a worldwide phenomenon. This is to include also media coming out of India, that light-skinned individuals basically steal the show. They are held up as prized, as desired, as the best heroes, and the people that are to be loved and appreciated the most. And other people are either excluded altogether, ignored, non-existent, or depicted as undesirables, as poor, as diminished, as belittled, not as worthy or smart or capable or powerful, etc. It is so expected. It is so the same and like a cookie cutter production going on that is just vomit inducing. It is just depressing the way things have been with media. So Japanese media has let me down throughout the decades. Especially now I'm more aware of these things, and I hope you become also aware. Japanese media is highly consumed throughout the world. It is probably the biggest industrially produced media when it comes especially to animation, to shows for kids, cartoons, games, etc. It is highly beloved. It is an industry that has been very, very popular for many decades now, I believe since the mid-70s. And it is something that may not change, and they are just capitalizing on the world's racism. They're capitalizing on the world's hatred toward darker complected peoples, races, and this is wrong, immoral. This is not to be accepted. This is to be rejected at all costs and in all situations. And if you're buying, consuming, watching Japanese animation, characters, media, books, comic books, games. You ought to think about that and what you're doing, what you're putting your money into. You are basically feeding this stereotype of white makes right, of white makes might, and white or light being accepted over dark and African. And this is the wrong way to do it. This is the wrong way to live, to spend your money. And this brings nothing but the perpetuation of white supremacy, of racism, of discrimination, of hatred toward anything African or of African descent. And that must change. The change has been coming for a long time. It is finally happening with companies like Disney, perhaps in a slower and more timid manner with other companies, production companies such as DreamWorks. They have a few very timid and reluctant moves toward inclusion, and that's about it. Other media companies may be there that escape my mind right now. I may post that in an update for this video or audio chat, and I may put it on the notes or description of this content. So look for that for the companies, production film companies that are making an effort to include other races other than Caucasians, other than European races. And again, Disney is at the forefront of this. They are valiantly in charge and valiantly pushing forward with inclusion and diversity in their media, their movies. It is evident, it is alive, and it is basically making them money. It is a business move as well as a moral move that they have made. No doubt about it. They have lost money as well as gained money in many respects, and it has paid off, I believe. They have found out that having more inclusion, darker characters, or African American characters on their movies, on their media, it is not a death sentence like the Japanese, that they are reluctant to have any characters of color because of the fear, this trembling and cowardly fear of losing a few bucks here and there, which again, it is unsubstantiated, it is false, and with evidence from Disney and other media companies that have taken the bold step to include what they have been excluding for many decades now, which is brown-skinned, dark-skinned, black-skinned characters in roles that are worthy of those people that have been historically oppressed to have, of importance, roles of capability, roles of wealth, power, of influence. And again, this is something that the Japanese film industry, media industry, and game industry is severely and depressingly lacking right now. So hopefully videos like this to expose the Japanese media and game and animation industry will make a difference. Perhaps not immediately, but perhaps, little by little, gradually in the future, they will realize that yes, we must recognize that we have been racist and exclusive and discriminatory throughout the decades. We have basically kneeled on the altar of white supremacy. We have kneeled on the altar of discrimination in the name of making a few bucks. And we have kneeled to and bowed down, very deep bow to white supremacy. And it is an undeniable fact that that has been the case. Again, companies like Nintendo, Sony, Pioneer, Ghibli Studios, and many other giants when it comes to Japanese animation and gaming. Namco, Konami, Tecmo, and all of those Japanese companies that escape my mind right now and that have not put up and shown up their courage to change the status quo, the racist and discriminatory status quo. Shame on them. Shame on them. Change your ways, include other races, include diversity in your movies, in your games, in your media, in your books, in your comic books. Make a change and be valiant. Be a change for difference. Be on the right side of history and stop having fear and bowing down to the racism and discrimination that you have bowed down for long enough. Shame on you.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please look for the next episode soon, and please ensure to share this with your friends and family. And please like this content and subscribe as a sign of support and for me to continue to provide this type of content to more people like you. Lastly, if you wish to support this content further, please visit the links provided in this publication. Thank you.